Coffee. That's what kept Hayes' Diner alive at 2 in the morning. Not the food, though Anna's meatloaf had its loyal fans. Not the atmosphere, since the vinyl booths were cracking and the jukebox hadn't worked since I was 16. Just coffee, hot and strong, for truckers making the haul to Milwaukee and insomniacs who couldn't face their empty apartments. I'd been pouring that coffee for 5 years now, ever since Mom and Dad died in the accident that also took Sarah. Except Sarah didn't die in the accident. She disappeared 3 days later. They found her body 2 weeks after that, but I didn't think about Sarah during the graveyard shift. Couldn't afford to. Grief didn't pay rent on a struggling diner, and the bank didn't care that my 29-year-old hands were the only thing standing between this place and foreclosure. The bell above the door chimed. I glanced up from wiping down the counter, cloth still in hand. 4 men walked in. 3 of them looked like they'd stepped out of a cologne advertisement, all sharp suits and sharper eyes. The 4th, the one in front, made the others look like background props. He was tall, maybe 6'3", with black hair swept back in a way that suggested either a very good barber or a complete lack of concern for current trends. His suit probably cost more than my monthly revenue, but it was his eyes that made me pause mid-wipe. Dark brown, nearly black, and so intense I felt them assess the entire diner in the span of a heartbeat. Giovanni Ricchetti. I didn't know his name yet, but I knew the type. Money, power, danger. Sit anywhere, I called out, forcing professional cheer into my voice. Menus are on the tables. He chose a booth in the back corner. Of course he did. View of both entrances, wall at his back. The 3 men arranged themselves strategically, 2 in the booth across from him, 1 at the counter with a clear sightline to the door. I'd seen this dance before. Not often, but enough to recognize it. Anna emerged from the kitchen, took 1 look at our new customers, and immediately busied herself with the coffee machine in the back. 60 years in Chicago taught you when to be invisible. I grabbed my order pad and approached their table. The man in the expensive suit was reading our laminated menu, like it contained classified information. His fingers drummed once against the table. Long fingers, clean nails. A ring on his right hand caught the overhead light. My heart stopped. The world narrowed to that single piece of jewelry. Gold, antique, with an intricate seal carved into deep red stone. Garnets surrounded by what looked like Latin script worn smooth by time. I'd seen that ring before. Held it in my hands. Watched it catch the light exactly like this on someone else's finger. Ma'am? I blinked. One of the men at the counter was staring at me. Coffee. I managed, voice rough. I'll get coffee. I retreated to the counter, my hands shaking as I grabbed the pot. This wasn't possible. That ring was unique. Sarah had shown it to me the last night I saw her alive, eyes bright with excitement she wouldn't explain. She'd worn it on her right hand, middle finger, exactly where this stranger wore his. When they found Sarah's body, the ring was gone. Police said robbery, probably. I'd never seen it again. Until tonight. I returned to their booth, pot in hand, and poured 4 cups without spilling despite the tremor in my fingers. Up close, the ring was even more distinctive. The seal showed what looked like a lion rampant, surrounded by words I couldn't make out. My sister had a ring like that, I heard myself say. The effect was immediate. His hand froze halfway to the coffee cup. Those dark eyes snapped to my face with an intensity that made my breath catch. What? His voice was deep, controlled, with the barest hint of an accent I couldn't place. That ring. I pointed with the coffee pot, unable to stop myself. My sister wore one exactly like it, 5 years ago. How? The single word carried weight. Not a question. A demand. I swallowed hard. I don't know. But she did. I saw it. She wore it the last night I saw her alive. The 3 other men had gone completely still. The one at the counter had shifted position slightly. My survival instincts belatedly kicked in, screaming that I'd said something very wrong to very dangerous people. But the man with the ring just stared at me. Something flickered across his face. Shock, maybe. Or recognition. What was your sister's name? He asked quietly. Sarah. Sarah Hayes. He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, something fundamental had changed in his expression. "Sit down," he said. "I'm working." "Sit down." I sat. Anna was going to kill me for abandoning the counter, but my legs had stopped taking commands from my brain. He removed the ring from his finger and placed it on the table between us. Under the diner's harsh lights, I could see the craftsmanship even more clearly. This wasn't costume jewelry. This was an heirloom. "This ring has been in my family for 300 years, he said. "It's one of a kind, hand-forged in Naples, brought to America by my great-great-great-grandfather. There is no other ring like this in the world." "Then how did my sister—" "6 years ago this ring was stolen from me." His jaw tightened. "Taken during an attack that killed 6 of my men. I thought it was lost forever." My mouth went dry. 6 of his men. This man commanded men. Had men who could be killed. "It reappeared 1 year later," he continued. "Someone left it on my desk. No note, no explanation. I never discovered who returned it or how they obtained it." The math assembled itself in my mind like puzzle pieces I didn't want to complete. 6 years ago, Sarah would have been 24. 1 year later would be 5 years ago. Weeks before she disappeared, your sister returned my family's ring, he said slowly, realization dawning in his eyes as he spoke. Somehow she had it. And she gave it back. "Sarah died 5 years ago," I whispered. "They found her body in the river. The police said," what did they say? "Random violence. Wrong place. Wrong time." The official story had always felt incomplete, but what could I do? I was 24, drowning in funeral costs, and suddenly responsible for a failing diner. She'd been dead about 2 weeks when they found her. He picked up the ring, turned it over in his fingers. What was her full name? Where did she work? Sarah Elizabeth Hayes. She was a freelance translator. German, Italian, some Russian. She worked from home mostly, but sometimes clients hired her for in-person meetings. I heard my voice from a distance. Too calm for the conversation we were having. "Why are you asking?" "Because I think your sister died because of this ring," he said. "And I think I know who killed her." The coffee pot slipped from my fingers. It hit the table, bounced, rolled. He caught it with reflexes that seemed too fast, set it upright without spilling a drop. "I don't understand," I managed. "You don't need to understand." "Not yet." He pulled a card from inside his suit jacket, slid it across the table. Heavy cardstock, embossed. Just a name and a phone number. Giovanni Ricchetti. "But if you want answers about what really happened to your sister, call this number tomorrow, 9 a.m. "Who are you?" His mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile. "Someone who owes your sister a debt. She returned something precious to my family. The least I can do is tell you why she died for it." He stood. The 3 men stood with him, a synchronized movement that spoke of long practice. He placed $200 bills on the table next to his untouched coffee. "For the coffee and the conversation," he said. "And Miss Hayes?" "Yes? Don't talk about this ring to anyone else. For your own safety." They left as quickly as they'd arrived. The bell chimed. The diner fell silent except for the hum of the ancient refrigerator. Anna appeared at my elbow. "You okay, honey?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I really don't know." The card lay on the table. Giovanni Ricchetti. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. I picked it up. The paper felt expensive between my fingers. Outside, a black SUV pulled away from the curb, taillights disappearing into Chicago's pre-dawn darkness. Sarah had worn that ring. I knew it with absolute certainty, and now the man who owned it was offering answers I'd spent 5 years trying to find. I tucked the card into my apron pocket. Tomorrow I'd call. I didn't sleep after my shift ended. Just stared at the ceiling of my studio apartment above the diner, watching dawn creep across the water-stained plaster. At 8:55 a.m., I sat on my ancient couch with Giovanni Ricchetti's card in one hand and my phone in the other. The smart thing would be to throw the card away. Pretend last night never happened. Men who traveled with bodyguards and paid $200 for coffee they didn't drink weren't the kind of men who improved your life. But Sarah's face kept appearing in my mind. Not as they'd found her, bloated and pale from 2 weeks in the river, as she'd been that last night. eyes bright with secret excitement. That impossible ring on her finger. I dialed at exactly 9 a.m. He answered on the first ring. Miss Hayes. How did you know it was me? I've been expecting your call. There's a car outside your building. Gray sedan. My driver will bring you somewhere we can talk privately. I moved to the window. Sure enough, a gray sedan idled at the curb. As I watched, the driver's side door opened and a man in a dark suit stepped out. He looked up at my window and nodded once. You've been watching my apartment? I've been ensuring your safety. There's a difference. His voice remained calm, almost gentle. The people who killed your sister may not appreciate you asking questions about her death. My stomach twisted. I haven't told anyone about last night. Good. Keep it that way. Will you come? Every instinct I'd developed growing up in Chicago screamed warnings. But curiosity, grief, and 5 years of unanswered questions drowned them out. Give me 10 minutes. I changed into clean jeans, and the one nice sweater I owned that didn't have coffee stains. The driver said nothing during the 20-minute trip through morning traffic, just drove with the competence of someone who'd done this route 1,000 times. We ended up in a warehouse district I vaguely recognized. Old industrial buildings converted into expensive lofts. The kind of neighborhood that gentrified 5 years ago and now hosted artisanal coffee shops next to former meatpacking plants. The driver pulled into an underground garage beneath one of the cleaner buildings. Giovanni waited by a private elevator, dressed more casually than last night. Dark slacks, white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, the ring back on his finger. Thank you for trusting me, he said. I don't trust you. I want answers. Something that might have been respect flickered across his face. Fair enough. This way. The elevator required a keycard. We rode up in silence. When the doors opened, they revealed not an apartment, but an office. File cabinets lined one wall. A massive desk dominated the center, flanked by computer monitors. Maps of Chicago covered another wall, marked with pins and colored strings like something from a crime drama. Welcome to the archives, Giovanni said. Everything my family has done in this city for the past 40 years is documented here, including the night 6 years ago when we were attacked and this ring was stolen. He moved to one of the file cabinets, pulled out a thick folder, and spread its contents across the desk. Police reports, autopsy photos, surveillance footage stills. I recognized the images before he said anything. Blood, bodies, violence documented in stark black and white. June 14th, 6 years ago. 2:30 a.m. His finger traced across a map. Warehouse on South Racine Avenue. My men were moving legitimate cargo, textiles imported from Italy. A rival organization ambushed us. 6 dead. Millions in property damage. And this ring, stolen from my hand during the chaos. I forced myself to look at the photos. The warehouse in the images was gutted, scorched. Who attacked you? The O'Sullivan family. Irish mob out of Boston, trying to establish Chicago territory. His jaw tightened. Their leader, Connor O'Sullivan, has spent the past 6 years attempting to destroy everything my family built. It became personal after that night. His son died in the attack. You killed his son? He tried to kill me first. I defended myself. Giovanni's voice carried no apology. Connor has never forgiven that. The war between our families intensified after June 14th, which is why I need you to look at something. He pulled up a map on one of the computer screens. Red pins marked one location, blue pins another. The red pin is the warehouse where we were attacked. Where does that look to you? I leaned closer. South Racine Avenue. The surrounding streets triggered recognition. That's near Bridgeport. Sarah had an apartment there when she first graduated college. She moved about 5 years ago, but my breath caught. She worked from a shared office space 2 blocks from that warehouse. I know. He pulled up another file. Bank statements with Sarah's name on them. Your sister occasionally translated documents for various businesses, including some that contracted with my family's import operations. She likely never knew who the actual clients were. We use layers of legitimate companies. You investigated my sister? I investigated everyone who might have had access to that warehouse the night of the attack. Your sister's name came up because she'd worked in the area. He paused. But she wasn't there that night. I verified her alibi years ago. She was at a translation conference downtown, surrounded by witnesses. Then how? Security footage from 3 days after the attack. He clicked a key. Grainy black and white video filled the screen. A figure in a dark coat and hood approached the burned-out warehouse in daylight. The police had cleared the scene, but I kept private surveillance active. Watch. The figure circled the building once, hesitant, then darted inside through a gap in the damaged wall. Emerged 12 minutes later, hands shoved deep in pockets. Walked quickly away. That's Sarah. I didn't need to see her face. I knew the way she moved, how she ducked her head when nervous. What was she doing there? I believe she went to see what happened. Possibly heard about it through her work connections. And while searching the ruins, she found my ring. He paused the video on a frame where Sarah glanced back at the warehouse. Even in the grainy footage, I could see fear on her face. She took it, maybe planning to turn it in to police, maybe just because it was valuable. But she kept it for months. Why? That's what I want to know. He pulled out another document. A bank statement showing a deposit to Sarah's account. $5,000, dated 4.5 years ago, 1 month before she died. This deposit has no clear source. Around the same time, my ring reappeared on my desk with no explanation. I think Sarah returned it anonymously and someone paid her for something. Information, maybe. The pieces were assembling into a picture I didn't like. You think Sarah got involved in something connected to your business? I think she found that ring and realized what it meant. That she'd stumbled into something dangerous. His voice softened slightly. Your sister wasn't a criminal, Miss Hayes. But she was curious and brave. Possibly too brave. Someone noticed her. The O'Sullivans? That's my theory. But I need to verify it. He closed the files. Which means investigating your sister's death more thoroughly than I did 6 years ago. The police report listed her death as random violence. Body found in the Chicago River near Goose Island. Cause of death drowning. Evidence of assault. Case went cold within 3 months. I read the report 100 times. My throat felt tight. They said she'd been in the water about 2 weeks. That she probably died the same night she disappeared. Police reports can be falsified, especially when influential people want certain questions to go unanswered. He met my eyes directly. I have contacts who can access the real autopsy report. The one that didn't get sanitized for public consumption. But if I start digging, people will notice, including whoever killed Sarah. You're saying looking into this puts me in danger. I'm saying it puts both of us in danger. But I owe your sister a debt. She returned something precious to my family when she could have sold it or thrown it in the river. That means something. He picked up the ring, turned it slowly. I want to know why she died. I want the people responsible to answer for it. But I need to know you're willing to accept the risks. I thought about Sarah. Smart, careful Sarah who spoke 4 languages and dreamed of working for the UN. Sarah who died alone and afraid in a river while I was sleeping peacefully above the diner. What do you need from me? Everything you remember about her last few months. People she mentioned, places she went, anything unusual. He pulled out a clean notebook. And I need you to accept protection. If someone realizes you're Sarah's sister and that you're investigating, they might act. Protection meaning what? A driver. Someone watching your apartment and the diner. Nothing intrusive. He paused. Nothing you'll notice unless you look for it. And in exchange, I find out what really happened to your sister. I make sure whoever killed her faces consequences. His voice hardened. I keep you alive while we get answers. I should have walked away. Should have called the police. Gotten a lawyer. Done anything except trust a man who casually discussed falsified police reports and private surveillance. But the police had failed Sarah. The official investigation had led nowhere. And Giovanni Ricchetti, whatever else he was, had resources I didn't. Okay, I heard myself say. Tell me what you need to know. He opened the notebook. Start with the last time you saw her alive. So I did. I told him about Sarah's excitement that final night. The ring on her finger that she'd laughed off when I asked about it. About the translation conference she'd attended 2 days later. About how she'd seemed distracted, kept checking her phone, mentioned meeting a client about a big project. Giovanni took notes in precise handwriting, asked clarifying questions, cross-referenced details with files on his computer. By the time I'd finished, 3 hours had passed. This client she mentioned, he said slowly. Did she say what language? Russian, I think. She'd been studying it more seriously that year. Something dark crossed his face. Connor O'Sullivan has connections to Russian organized crime. If Sarah was translating for them, even unknowingly, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Outside, afternoon sun slanted through the windows. Somewhere in Chicago, people were living normal lives, working normal jobs, not sitting in warehouse offices discussing their sister's murder with a man who probably had blood on his hands. "I'll have answers within 48 hours, Giovanni said. "My driver will take you home. Don't discuss this with anyone, not even your employee Anna. The less people know, the safer everyone stays." And then what? Then we decide what to do with the truth. He stood, extended his hand. "Thank you for trusting me with this, Miss Hayes." His handshake was firm, warm. I noticed calluses on his palm, rougher than I'd expected from a man in expensive suits. Evidence of work I probably didn't want to know about. The driver took me home in silence. As we pulled up to the diner, I saw Anna through the window, prepping for dinner service. My normal life. Still waiting. But normal had ended the moment I saw that ring. I climbed the stairs to my apartment and found an envelope on my door. No markings. Just thick paper folded once. Inside, a single sentence in block letters. "Stop digging where you don't belong." My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and dialed Giovanni's number. He answered immediately. "What happened?" "Someone left a message on my door. A threat. I'm sending security now." "Don't leave your apartment." His voice had gone cold. "We're out of time. Whoever killed Sarah knows you're asking questions." The line went dead. I locked my door and sat on the couch, that threatening note on the coffee table. 48 hours, Giovanni had said, but I had a feeling we'd run out of time much faster than that. Security arrived in the form of a man named Sergio. Mid-40s, barrel-chested, with the kind of watchful calm that suggested military training. He examined the threatening note without touching it, then swept my apartment like he expected to find bombs in the coffee maker. "You're moving to a safe house tonight," he said. Not a suggestion, a statement of fact. "I have a business to run. You have a life to protect." His voice wasn't unkind. "Giovanni's already making arrangements. You'll keep your routine at the diner, but you'll sleep somewhere secure, non-negotiable." That was how I ended up in a high-rise apartment in River North with floor-to-ceiling windows, security cameras on every corner, and a panic button by the bed. The furniture was expensive and impersonal, corporate housing for people who needed to disappear temporarily. Giovanni showed up at 7 that evening with takeout from a Thai place that definitely didn't deliver to this address. He'd traded the suit for dark jeans and a black sweater that made him look younger, less intimidating, almost human. "I brought pad thai," he said, setting containers on the granite counter. "Sergio said you hadn't eaten since this morning." Sergio talks a lot for someone who barely says 3 words. He takes his job seriously. You should be grateful. Giovanni pulled out plates from cabinets he somehow knew the location of. "This building is owned by one of my legitimate companies. Only 4 people know you're here. You're safe. Until I'm not." I opened a container. The smell made my stomach growl, betraying how scared I actually was. That note means someone's been watching me. How long have they known about Sarah and the ring? I don't know yet, but I have information. He pulled out his phone, swiped to a photograph. "The police report on your sister's death was sanitized, as I suspected. But I accessed the original autopsy through a contact at the medical examiner's office. Sarah didn't drown Natalie. She was dead before she entered the water." Hearing my first name from him felt strange. Intimate. I focused on the food instead of the sudden tightness in my chest. "How?" "Blunt force trauma to the head, then a single gunshot to the heart." He paused. "The method is specific. It's a signature used by O'Sullivan enforcers. A calling card for people who betray them. Sarah never betrayed anyone. She possessed information about their operations, even if she didn't realize it. That made her a liability." He set the phone down carefully. "The police covered it up because Connor O'Sullivan owns half the cops in 3 precincts. An unsolved drowning raises fewer questions than an execution-style murder tied to organized crime." I set down my fork. "So Sarah translated something for them, found out what it meant, and they killed her for it. That's my theory. The $5,000 deposit in her account was probably payment for a translation job that went wrong. She saw too much, understood too much. His jaw tightened. Connor doesn't leave loose ends. Why return your ring then? If she was so scared, why risk contacting anyone connected to this world? Because your sister was smart. She knew the ring marked her as someone who'd been at my warehouse after the attack. If O'Sullivan found out she had it, they'd assume she was working for me. Returning it anonymously was self-preservation. He leaned back against the counter. But it wasn't enough. They found her anyway. I pushed the food away. Appetite gone. You said Connor's son died in that warehouse attack 6 years ago. That he's been waging war against you ever since. His son, Patrick, was 23. Ambitious. Reckless. He organized the attack without Connor's direct approval. Trying to prove himself. Giovanni's voice carried old bitterness. Patrick drew on me first. I had 3 seconds to decide if I wanted to live or die. I chose to live. And Connor blames you. Connor blames everyone except his son. For 6 years, he's attacked my businesses, my people, my family. He's a man consumed by grief and rage, which makes him extremely dangerous. He met my eyes. If he discovers you're Sarah's sister and that you're investigating her death with my help, he'll kill you to hurt me, just like he killed her. The apartment's heating system hummed softly. Outside, Chicago glittered with evening lights. People living normal lives, going to normal dinners, watching normal television. I should be terrified, I said slowly. I should run, but all I feel is angry. Anger is useful if you channel it correctly. How do you channel it? You've been fighting this war for 6 years. Something vulnerable flickered across his face. Not well. Not until recently. He moved to the window, hands in his pockets. Connor killed my older brother 4 years ago. Antonio. He was 38. Had a wife and 2 daughters. Connor's men planted a bomb in his car because Antonio refused to back down from expanding our territory in Cicero. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't bring him back. Sorry doesn't protect his daughters from growing up without a father. His reflection in the window looked haunted. I became the head of my family that day. 32 years old. Suddenly responsible for hundreds of people. Dozens of businesses. A war I didn't start but couldn't end. Every decision I've made since then has been about keeping my people alive and making sure Antonio's death meant something. I understood suddenly why he'd agreed to investigate Sarah's death. It wasn't just about the ring or some abstract concept of debt. It was about all the people Connor O'Sullivan had destroyed in his single-minded quest for revenge. Where do we go from here? I asked. I keep digging into Sarah's last few weeks. The translations she did, the clients she met, everything that might connect her to O'Sullivan operations. He turned from the window. You stay here or at the diner, always with security. No deviations, no risks. Connor will make a move soon. The threatening note proves he knows you're involved. We need to be ready. And then? Then we decide if we're going to the authorities or handling this ourselves. His expression hardened. I prefer the latter, but I'm trying to be better than my instincts, for what it's worth. We ate in silence after that. The food was good despite everything. Giovanni insisted on staying until Sergio's shift started at midnight, doing work on his laptop at the kitchen counter while I pretended to watch television. The domesticity of it felt surreal. A mob boss doing spreadsheets while I flipped through channels showing sitcoms and reality competitions. At 11:45, he closed his laptop. I need to tell you something. My stomach tightened. What? I'm not a good man, Natalie. I've done things that would horrify you. Hurt people, ordered violence, operated outside every law you believe protects civilization. He stood, gathering his things. But I honor my debts. Your sister returned something precious to me when she didn't have to. That makes her death my responsibility to avenge. I don't want revenge. I want justice. Sometimes they're the same thing. He paused at the door. Sometimes they're not. When we find out which one this is, I need to know you can live with my methods. I don't know if I can. Then figure it out. Because once we start down this road, there's no turning back. His dark eyes held mine. Connor O'Sullivan doesn't forgive, doesn't forget, doesn't show mercy. If we're going to stop him, we need to be willing to fight on his terms. He left before I could respond. Sergio arrived 5 minutes later, taking up position in the building's lobby with a clear view of all entrances. I stood at those floor-to-ceiling windows, looking down at Chicago's nighttime landscape. Somewhere out there, Connor O'Sullivan was planning his next move. Somewhere out there, the answers to Sarah's death waited. I called Giovanni's number. He answered immediately. "I can live with your methods," I said. "As long as they lead to the truth." A pause. Then, quietly, "They will. I promise you that." The next 3 days passed in strange routine. I worked my shifts at the diner with a security detail positioned discreetly at the counter. Sergio or one of his team drove me between the safe house and work. Giovanni visited every evening with food and updates. He'd found the company that had contracted Sarah for Russian translation 5 years ago. A shipping firm that, when properly investigated, turned out to be an O'Sullivan front for moving contraband. Sarah had translated invoices and customs documents, probably never realizing the cargo manifests were fiction. She stopped working for them 3 weeks before she died, Giovanni explained over Chinese takeout on day 4. Filed a complaint with the contracting agency about suspicious requests. That complaint disappeared from their records, but I found a backup copy. What kind of requests? They asked her to deliberately mistranslate certain documents, make numbers match across different forms even when they didn't align. She refused. He pulled up an email on his phone. She sent this to her contact at the agency. "I believe I'm being asked to participate in illegal activity. I'm terminating this contract effective immediately." 2 days later, someone deposited $5,000 in her account from an untraceable source. Hush money, or a final payment with a threat attached. "Stop talking or else." His expression darkened. 3 weeks later, she died. Connor's people had 3 weeks to decide she was a risk they couldn't afford. Can we prove any of this? Not in a court of law. But I don't need a court. He met my eyes. "I need you to decide what kind of justice you want. Legal or final." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Anna's name on the screen. I answered, heart already racing. "Natalie, honey, you need to come to the diner right now." Anna's voice shook. "Someone broke in during closing. Tore the place apart. Left a message painted on the wall." "What kind of message?" "It says, 'Your sister should have stayed quiet. So should you.'" Giovanni was already moving, grabbing his jacket, phone to his ear calling Sergio. I followed, pulse hammering. The safe house suddenly felt like a trap instead of protection. Connor O'Sullivan had just declared open war, and somewhere in the back of my mind, beneath the fear and anger, a small voice whispered what I already knew. I couldn't live with walking away. Not anymore. Not when Sarah's death finally meant something more than an unsolved file in a cold case database. Giovanni's hand found mine as we rode the elevator down. His grip was steady, warm, anchoring. "We end this," he said quietly. "Together. Whatever it takes." I squeezed his hand back. Whatever it takes. The diner looked like a crime scene. Tables overturned, chairs smashed, the vintage jukebox my father had restored lying in pieces across the checkered floor. But the worst part was the wall behind the counter. Red paint dripped down in uneven letters 2 feet high. "Your sister should have stayed quiet. So should you." Anna sat in the only intact booth, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm night. 2 of Giovanni's men stood guard at the door, while Sergio photographed every angle of the destruction. "They waited until I left at 9, Anna said when I sat beside her. Her hands trembled around a cup of tea. I locked up, walked to my car like normal. Came back 20 minutes later because I forgot my reading glasses. Found this. Did you see anyone? A black truck drove past when I was coming back. No plates. Didn't think anything of it at the time." She squeezed my hand. "Honey, what's going on? This isn't random vandalism." Giovanni appeared before I could answer. He crouched in front of Anna, his voice gentle. "Ma'am, you're not safe here tonight. My men will drive you home and post security outside your house. Don't come to work tomorrow. Take a few days. This is about Natalie, isn't it? About her sister?" "Yes." He didn't elaborate. Didn't offer explanations Anna hadn't asked for. "I'm going to fix this, but I need you somewhere protected while I do." Anna looked at me. I nodded. She left with 2 security guards, still wrapped in that blanket. And suddenly the diner felt enormous and empty. Giovanni stood in the center of the destruction, slowly turning in a circle. They're escalating. The note on your door was a warning. This is a promise. A promise of what? That they'll destroy everything you care about until you stop asking questions. He pulled out his phone, took his own photographs. Connor's getting nervous. He wouldn't risk this kind of exposure unless he felt cornered. Good. Let him feel cornered. I grabbed a broom from the supply closet, started sweeping broken glass. The repetitive motion helped channel the rage burning through my chest. Natalie, stop. I'm cleaning my diner. You're in shock. He took the broom from my hands, set it aside. This isn't something you fix with cleaning supplies. Then what do I fix it with? Violence? Murder? My voice cracked. You keep talking about your methods, about making Connor pay, but I don't know how to be that person. I serve coffee. I make small talk with truckers at 3 a.m. I don't know how to fight a war. You don't have to fight it alone. His hand settled on my shoulders, steady and warm. That's what I'm here for. Why? The question burst out before I could stop it. Why do you care this much? Sarah returned your ring 5 years ago. That debt's paid. You could walk away. I could. His dark eyes held mine. But I won't. You want to know why? Because I'm tired of watching Connor O'Sullivan destroy innocent people. Because your sister deserved better than dying afraid and alone for the crime of being honest. Because you... He stopped, jaw tightening. Because I what? Because you remind me that not everything in this world is corrupt and brutal, that some people still believe in justice instead of revenge. His hands dropped. I've spent 6 years becoming someone I barely recognize. Someone who orders violence without flinching, who makes decisions that cost lives. You make me want to be better than that. The confession hung between us. Outside, a siren wailed past. Inside, the diner's destruction seemed less important than the way Giovanni was looking at me, like I was something precious and fragile. I'm not fragile, I said quietly. I'm scared and angry, but I'm not breakable. I know. That's what terrifies me. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. Come on. Sergio's team will secure this place and document everything. We need to talk somewhere private. Back at the safe house, Giovanni spread new files across the dining table. I kept digging while you were working today. Found something that changes everything. He pulled out a document covered in Cyrillic text. This is a contract Sarah translated 5 years ago. The shipping company claimed it was for industrial machinery. Actually, it was for weapons. High-end military surplus being moved from Russia to the US through Chicago. My stomach dropped. Sarah helped them smuggle weapons? Sarah translated words on a page without understanding context. But then she got smart. Started researching the companies listed in the contracts. He pulled out printouts with highlighted sections. She found connections between the Russian suppliers and known criminal organizations. Found inconsistencies in the paperwork that proved the cargo manifests were fraudulent. And she kept evidence. She kept everything. Probably planning to go to authorities once she had enough proof. His expression darkened. But O'Sullivan's people were monitoring her. They discovered she was documenting their operation. That's when they paid her $5,000. Blood money. A test. To see if she'd take payment and walk away quietly. When she didn't, when she terminated her contract and filed that complaint, they had their answer. He pulled out one final document. An email, partially redacted. I found this on a server O'Sullivan thought was secure. It's from one of his lieutenants to Connor directly. I read the visible portions. Translator problem resolved. No loose ends. Message sent to others who might consider similar actions. They murdered her as an example, I whispered. Yes. And they covered it up with help from corrupted officials who owed Connor favors. Giovanni's voice had gone cold. Your sister died because she tried to do the right thing. Because she believed in law and justice and wouldn't compromise those values even when threatened. I sank into a chair. Sarah's face swam in my memory. Younger sister by 12 minutes. But always the brave one. The one who stood up to bullies, who called out injustice, who believed the system would protect people who told the truth. The system had failed her. Spectacularly. I want to go to the FBI, I said. We have evidence. We have Connor's own communications. Let them handle it. The FBI investigation would take months, maybe years, and Connor has enough money to buy the best defense lawyers in the country. He might walk. Giovanni leaned against the table. Is that justice? Him living in a mansion under house arrest while your sister is dead? It's better than nothing. Is it? He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo. Young woman, maybe 20, with Giovanni's dark eyes and sharp cheekbones. This is Camilla, my sister. She's 24, studying medicine at Northwestern. Wants to be a trauma surgeon. Why are you showing me this? Because Connor knows about her. Has known for years. He's waiting for the right moment to hurt me by hurting her. His hand tightened on the phone. If we go public with this evidence, Connor will know he's cornered. Cornered animals lash out. Camilla would become a target. As would you, Anna. Everyone connected to this. So what's the alternative? We just kill him. We make him vulnerable. Expose his operations enough that his own people turn on him. Crime families run on loyalty and profit. If you remove both, the organization collapses from within. Giovanni set the phone down carefully. I'm not talking about murder. I'm talking about strategic dismantling. That's just revenge with better PR. Maybe. But it keeps innocent people alive while putting Connor somewhere he can't hurt anyone else. He moved to stand in front of me. I'm trying to find a middle ground between the man I was and the man I want to be. Help me figure out where that ground is. I looked up at him. This man who'd walked into my diner a week ago and turned my entire world inside out. Who'd shown me the truth about Sarah's death and offered resources I'd never have accessing alone. Who looked at me like I was something worth protecting, worth changing for. We build a case, I said slowly. We gather every piece of evidence, document everything, make it impossible to deny or cover up. Then we give it to someone who can't be bought. A journalist with a national platform. Someone who'll make so much noise that even corrupt officials can't ignore it. Something like hope flickered across Giovanni's face. You have someone in mind? Maybe. I dated a guy in college who went into investigative journalism. Works for the Tribune now, covers organized crime. He owes me a favor. I pulled out my phone. His name is Marcus. If I give him this story with documentation, he'll run it. And once it's public, Connor loses the protection that comes from operating in shadows. Marcus, Giovanni's expression shifted. You dated him? 3 years, undergrad, ended amicably. We still get coffee occasionally. I raised an eyebrow. Is that a problem? No, of course not. But his jaw had tightened slightly. As long as he's trustworthy, he is probably the most ethical person I know. I started composing a message. I'll reach out, set up a meeting. You bring the evidence. We make Connor O'Sullivan's life very public and very difficult. Giovanni was quiet for a moment. Then, you're brilliant, you know that? I'm practical. There's a difference. But warmth spread through my chest at the compliment. How long will it take to compile everything? 2 days, maybe 3. I need to verify sources, clean up anything that might compromise my family's legitimate businesses. He sat across from me. This might not stop Connor completely. He survived exposure before, but it'll hurt him. Limit his power. Maybe push his organization into turning on him to save themselves. I met his eyes. And it'll give Sarah's death meaning beyond being a footnote in a closed case file. Yes, he reached across the table, took my hand. His palm was warm, calloused, steady. Thank you, for finding a better way than my instincts wanted. We sat like that for a while, hands linked across the table. The evidence of Sarah's murder spread between us. Outside, Chicago hummed with late-night life. Inside, something fundamental had shifted between Giovanni and me. When he finally stood to leave, he hesitated at the door. Natalie? Yes? After this is over, after Connor's dealt with and you're safe. He paused. Would you have dinner with me? Somewhere normal, not takeout in a safe house. Despite everything, I smiled. Are you asking me on a date? I'm asking if you'd want to spend time with me when your life isn't in danger, and I'm not investigating your sister's murder. His expression was almost shy. I'd understand if the answer is no. Ask me again when this is over, I said softly. When we both know who we are outside of crisis mode. He nodded, something like relief crossing his face. I'll hold you to that. After he left, I stood at the window looking out over the city. Somewhere out there, Connor O'Sullivan thought he'd broken me with his threats and violence. Thought I'd run scared like he probably expected Sarah to do 5 years ago. He was wrong about Sarah. And he was wrong about me. I pulled out my phone and sent the message to Marcus. Need to talk. Have a story that'll make your career. Can you meet tomorrow? His response came within minutes. Always. Your place or mine? Neither, I typed back. I'll send you an address. Whatever came next, Sarah would finally have justice, and Connor O'Sullivan would learn that some people don't scare quietly. Marcus arrived at the archive office with a leather messenger bag and the same wire-rimmed glasses he'd worn in college. He hugged me briefly, then looked around the space with undisguised curiosity. When you said you had a story, I didn't expect corporate espionage headquarters. He noticed Giovanni standing by the desk. And you are? Giovanni Ricchetti. No handshake offered. Natalie's told you why you're here? Just that it involves her sister's murder and organized crime. Marcus pulled out a notebook, ever the journalist. I'm listening. We spent 3 hours walking him through everything. The ring, the warehouse attack, Sarah's translation work for O'Sullivan Fronts, the falsified police reports. Giovanni provided documentation for each claim, redacting anything that might implicate his own family in unrelated matters. Marcus took notes in shorthand, asked pointed questions, occasionally stopped us to verify timeline details. By the end, his expression had shifted from professional interest to barely contained excitement. This is Pulitzer-level work, he said quietly. If I can verify even half of these documents, Connor O'Sullivan goes down. His entire organization collapses. How long until you can publish? Giovanni asked. 2 weeks minimum. I need to confirm sources, get legal approval, maybe reach out to federal contacts for comment. Marcus glanced between us. You understand that once this goes public, there will be retaliation. O'Sullivan won't go quietly. We're counting on it, Giovanni said. Once he's exposed, his own people will turn on him to save themselves. Rats leaving a sinking ship. Marcus packed his notes carefully. Natalie, can I talk to you outside for a minute? Giovanni's jaw tightened, but he nodded. I followed Marcus to the hallway. Are you safe with him? Marcus asked without preamble. Giovanni Ricchetti isn't exactly known for charity work. His family runs half the port operations in Chicago through questionable means. I know what he is. I also know he's the only reason I'm still alive. I kept my voice low. Connor O'Sullivan killed Sarah, Marcus. Executed her and covered it up. Giovanni's helping me get justice. At what cost? I don't know yet, but it's worth it. I met his concerned gaze. Print the story. Make Connor pay for what he did. That's all I'm asking. He hugged me again, tighter this time. Be careful. You're playing in a world that doesn't forgive mistakes. After Marcus left, Giovanni was quiet. We drove back to the safe house in tense silence. Finally, as we pulled into the garage, he spoke. You care about him. Marcus, I did once. Not anymore. Not like that. I turned in my seat. Are you jealous? I don't get jealous. I get territorial. The corner of his mouth lifted. There's a difference. Not really. Fair point. He killed the engine. For what it's worth, I'm trying not to be the kind of man who controls who you talk to or sees threats in old relationships. Trying is good. Keep trying. We were laughing when his phone rang. Sergio's name on the screen. Giovanni answered, expression shifting instantly to something cold and focused. When? How many casualties? A pause. Lock down the warehouse district. Full security on all family properties. I'm on my way. He ended the call. O'Sullivan hit one of our storage facilities an hour ago. Burned it to the ground. 2 of my men are dead. The warmth between us evaporated. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Those men died because Connor knows we're building a case against him. I need to see what we're dealing with. I grabbed my jacket. I'm not asking permission. For a moment, I thought he'd argue. Instead, he just nodded tersely. Stay close to me. Do exactly what I say. Understood? The warehouse was still smoldering when we arrived. Fire trucks lined the street, firefighters working to contain flames that had already consumed most of the structure. Police cars blocked traffic, Officers taking statements from witnesses who probably saw nothing useful. Giovanni's men stood in a tight cluster away from official attention. Sergio approached as we exited the car, his expression grim. Both dead were on perimeter patrol. Throats cut. Professional work. Attackers used the bodies as distraction, hit the warehouse while we responded to finding them. He handed Giovanni a phone. They left this on one of the bodies. Giovanni checked the phone. His jaw tightened. He showed me the screen. A text message. "Stop helping the Hayes girl or your sister is next." "Camilla," I whispered. "She's in class at Northwestern right now. I've got 6 men surrounding her who she doesn't know exist." But his hands shook slightly as he pocketed the phone. "Connor's never directly threatened her before. This is new. Because he's scared. We're getting too close. Or because he's decided scorched earth is his only option." Giovanni turned to Sergio. "Pull everyone back to defendable positions. Family properties only. Nothing exposed. And get Camilla to the estate. I don't care if she has exams. She's not safe at school." Sergio moved immediately. Giovanni stood watching the warehouse burn, flames reflected in his dark eyes. "I should have anticipated this," he said quietly. "Should have known Connor would escalate. You can't predict everything. I can try. Those men had families. They trusted me to keep them safe." He pulled out his phone, made a call, spoke in rapid Italian to someone on the other end. When he finished, his expression had hardened into something frightening. "I'm moving assets, consolidating power. If Connor wants war, he'll get it. That's not the plan. Marcus needs time to publish. Marcus has 2 weeks. I have hours before Connor hits another target." He turned to me. "You're going back to the safe house. Non-negotiable. I need to handle this without worrying about your safety. I can help. You can stay alive. That's how you help." His voice gentled slightly. "Please, Natalie. I can't think clearly if I'm terrified Connor's going to grab you off the street." I wanted to argue. Wanted to insist I wasn't helpless. But 2 men were dead, and Giovanni's sister was being threatened, and my presence complicated his ability to protect everyone else. "Okay, but you check in every 2 hours. I need to know you're safe too." Something softened in his expression. "Deal." Sergio drove me back while Giovanni coordinated response to the attack. The safe house felt more like a prison than protection, but I forced myself to stay put. Every news alert on my phone showed the warehouse fire, speculated about gang violence, quoted police sources about ongoing investigations into organized crime. Giovanni called at 6 p.m. "Camilla's secure at the estate. She's furious with me for pulling her out of school, but alive and protected. That's what matters. How are you holding up?" "I've had better days, but I've also had worse." Background noise suggested he was mobile, probably in a car. O'Sullivan hit 2 more properties this afternoon. A gambling operation in Greektown and a legitimate restaurant in Little Italy. No casualties this time, just property damage. He's trying to provoke me into retaliation. Will you retaliate? Silence. Then, I'm trying not to. Trying to be the man who waits for Marcus's story to destroy Connor legally. But it's difficult when my people are dying and my sister is threatened. I know, but we're so close. 2 weeks and this ends the right way. 2 weeks feels like a lifetime when you're waiting for the next attack. He exhaled slowly. "I need to go. Security briefing in 5 minutes. I'll call you later." He didn't call later. At 11 p.m., Sergio called instead. "There's been an incident. Camilla's car was ambushed leaving the estate. She's alive but injured. Giovanni's at Northwestern Memorial with her now." My hands went numb. "How bad?" "Gunshot wound to the shoulder, through and through, missed major arteries. She'll recover." His voice hardened. But O'Sullivan made his message clear. "Nobody connected to Giovanni is safe. I'm coming to the hospital. Giovanni said you'd say that. He also said absolutely not. The hospital might be under surveillance. I don't care. Get me there or I'll take an Uber." Sergio knew a losing battle when he heard one. We arrived at Northwestern Memorial 40 minutes later. Giovanni stood outside a private room, still wearing clothes stained with what I realized was blood. His sister's blood. He looked up as I approached. Whatever mask he usually wore had shattered completely. What remained was raw fear and barely contained rage. "She was just driving to dinner with friends," he said, voice hollow. 6 men protecting her. They still got close enough to shoot. I didn't say anything, just wrapped my arms around him. He stood rigid for a moment, then collapsed into the embrace, face buried against my shoulder. His breathing was uneven, hands gripping my jacket like I was the only thing keeping him upright. "I can't lose her too," he whispered. "Antonio, my parents, so many friends. I can't lose Camila. You won't. She's going to be okay. This time. What about next time? Or the time after that?" He pulled back, eyes red. "Connor won't stop until everyone I love is dead or I am. That's who he is. Then we stop him first, whatever it takes." I thought I knew what that meant. Thought I could wait for legal justice. His expression shifted to something cold and decided. I was wrong. Some people don't deserve mercy or time. They deserve Giovanni. I gripped his face in both hands, forced him to look at me. "Don't let him turn you into something you'll regret. Connor wants you to lose control, to give him justification for more violence. Don't give him that. My sister is in a hospital bed with a bullet wound. I know, and we will make him pay, but not by becoming him." I held his gaze. 2 weeks. Let Marcus publish. Let the world see who Connor O'Sullivan really is. Then, if he's still a threat, we deal with him your way. He closed his eyes, jaw working. When he opened them again, some of the coldness had receded. 2 weeks. But if he comes after you or Camilla again before then, all bets are off. Agreed. A doctor emerged from Camilla's room. Young woman, South Asian, with the calm confidence of someone used to delivering difficult news. "Mr. Ricchetti? Your sister's asking for you. She's stable and awake." Giovanni straightened, wiping his eyes quickly. "Can Natalie come too?" "Family only usually, but given the circumstances." The doctor glanced at the security stationed everywhere. "I'll allow it." Camilla looked younger than 24 in the hospital bed, connected to monitors and IVs. Her right shoulder was heavily bandaged, but her eyes were alert and furious. "If you say I told you so, I'm checking myself out of this hospital," she told Giovanni immediately. "I would never." He kissed her forehead gently. "How's the pain?" "Manageable with drugs. Unmanageable with the knowledge that I'm missing my anatomy practical tomorrow." She noticed me. "You must be Natalie. Giovanni talks about you constantly." "Camilla, it's true and you know it. Natalie this, Natalie that." She smiled despite the circumstances. "I'm glad he has someone making him occasionally act like a human being instead of a walking anxiety disorder." Giovanni looked mortified. I laughed, surprising myself. "I like her already." "Of course you do. You both gang up on me." But relief had replaced the fear in Giovanni's expression. "Get some rest. We'll talk about school later." "We'll talk about me going back to school immediately," Camilla corrected. "I'm not hiding from Connor O'Sullivan. He doesn't get to control my life." "Your life I can rebuild. I can't rebuild you. Gio." She used what was clearly a childhood nickname. "I'm not made of glass. And I'm definitely not backing down from some vendetta-obsessed lunatic who thinks shooting people solves problems." Her expression hardened. "Destroy him. Whatever you need to do. You have my blessing." Giovanni squeezed her uninjured hand. "Working on it." We left her to sleep. Outside, dawn was breaking over Chicago. Giovanni and I stood in the hospital parking garage, exhausted and running on pure adrenaline. 12 days, he said quietly. Then Marcus publishes, and Connor's world ends. 12 days, I agreed. We can survive 12 days. His phone buzzed. He checked it, expression darkening. Connor just issued a statement through his lawyer. Claims Giovanni Ricchetti has been harassing his legitimate businesses, and that any property damage is justified self-defense. He's getting ahead of the story. He's declaring open war. Giovanni pocketed the phone. 12 days. But I'm done playing defense. Time to remind Connor O'Sullivan why people fear the Ricchetti name. The look in his eyes made me shiver. Not from fear of him, but from recognition of what was coming. The gloves were off. The rules had changed. And Connor O'Sullivan had just made the biggest mistake of his life by going after Giovanni's sister. I spent 3 days at the safe house watching Giovanni transform into someone I barely recognized. He left before dawn and returned after midnight. Clothes rumpled, eyes hollow. The few times we spoke, his voice carried an edge that hadn't been there before. "We're bleeding resources," he told me on day 3, pouring whiskey he didn't drink. "Connor's hitting supply lines, bribing my contacts, turning minor associates against me. By the time Marcus publishes, I might not have an organization left to protect. So we speed up the timeline. Marcus needs another 9 days minimum. Then we find another way to hurt Connor. Something that doesn't involve waiting." I closed my laptop where I'd been researching Connor's known associates. There has to be a weakness we can exploit. Giovanni sat heavily on the couch. His accountant, Thomas Riley, handles all the money laundering through legitimate fronts. If we could flip him, then we'd have direct testimony plus financial records. I pulled up a file. I've been looking into Riley. He's got a family, wife, 2 kids in private school. No criminal record before he started working for Connor. Meaning he's not loyal to the life, he's loyal to the paycheck. Giovanni leaned forward, some energy returning to his voice. If we offer protection and immunity, he might take it. How do we approach him without Connor knowing? We don't. I do. He pulled out his phone. Sergio's been tracking Riley's movements. He picks up his daughter from ballet every Thursday at 6 p.m. Tomorrow's Thursday. That's not enough time to plan properly. It's all the time we have. Connor's closing in. Either we act now or we lose the advantage. He stood, already making calls. "I'll handle the approach. You stay here where it's safe." "No." He paused mid-dial. "What?" "No, I'm coming with you." I stood to face him. Riley's not going to trust a mob boss showing up at his daughter's ballet class, but a woman? Someone who looks normal and unthreatening? That's different. Absolutely not. If something goes wrong, you'll need someone who can talk to civilians without terrifying them. I crossed my arms. I've spent 5 years serving coffee to every kind of person in Chicago. I know how to read people, how to make them comfortable. You need me for this. His jaw tightened. For a moment I thought he'd refuse outright. Then he exhaled slowly. "You stay in the car unless I signal otherwise. You don't approach unless I clear it. And if shooting starts, you run. Understood?" "Understood." Thursday afternoon found us parked outside a dance studio in Oak Park. Affluent neighborhood, tree-lined streets, the kind of place where soccer moms and organized crime accountants coexisted without overlap. Thomas Riley arrived at 5:55 p.m. in a sensible Volvo. Mid-40s, thinning hair, wire-rimmed glasses. He looked like a CPA, which technically he was. Just one who specialized in making blood money look legitimate. He goes in, waits in the lobby, brings his daughter out at 6:30. Sergio said from the driver's seat. "Security's light. Connor doesn't consider him a target, because Connor thinks Riley's too scared to flip." Giovanni watched the studio entrance. "Let's test that theory." At 6:15, Giovanni nodded to me. We exited the car and walked into the studio's lobby like normal parents. Other families milled around, chatting about recitals and carpools. Riley sat alone in the corner, scrolling his phone. Giovanni approached while I hung back slightly, trying to look casual. Riley glanced up, did a double take, and went pale. "Mr. Ricchetti." His voice barely carried. "I don't know what you think." "Relax, Thomas. I'm not here to threaten you." Giovanni sat in the adjacent chair, posture deliberately unthreatening. "I'm here to offer you a way out. I don't know what you're talking about. You've been laundering money for Connor O'Sullivan for 6 years. You know exactly what I'm talking about." Giovanni kept his voice low. "You also know that Connor's organization is collapsing. Federal investigation, media exposure, internal fractures. When it falls, everyone goes down with it, including you." Riley's hands trembled slightly. "I can't help you. Connor would kill my family. Connor's going to be in federal custody within 2 weeks. But I can protect your family now." Giovanni pulled out a card. "That's the direct line to an FBI agent who specializes in organized crime. She's expecting your call. Full immunity in exchange for testimony and financial records." "You're insane. Connor has people everywhere. Had people everywhere. Most of them are currently reconsidering their loyalty." Giovanni leaned closer. "Your daughter's name is Emma. She's 8. Takes ballet on Thursdays, soccer on Saturdays. Your wife Eva teaches 3rd grade at Oak Park Elementary. Your son Michael is 6, obsessed with dinosaurs. Riley went white. Are you threatening them? I'm demonstrating that I know how to find them if I wanted to. So does Connor. Giovanni's voice hardened. The difference is, I'm offering protection before the walls close in. Connor will throw you to the feds to save himself the moment things get ugly. You know I'm right. Before Riley could respond, a young girl in a pink leotard emerged from the studio. Daddy! Riley stood automatically, forcing a smile. Hey, sweetheart. Good class? This was my cue. I approached with practiced warmth. Your daughter is adorable. How long has she been dancing? Riley blinked at me, confused by the shift. 2 years? My sister used to dance. I kept my voice gentle, conversational. She loved it. Said it made her feel free. I paused, let the past tense register. She died 5 years ago. A man named Connor O'Sullivan had her killed because she knew too much about his business operations. Riley's expression shifted to horrified understanding. Her name was Sarah Hayes. She was a translator, worked for Connor without realizing what she was really translating. I held his gaze. When she figured it out and tried to walk away, Connor murdered her. Made it look like random violence. I didn't know. I know you didn't. But you know now. I pulled out a second card. This one with my number. Giovanni's offering you immunity and protection. I'm offering you the chance to make sure men like Connor don't kill anyone else's sister. Your choice, Mr. Riley. But choose fast. We left him standing there, his daughter chattering about arabesques, the cards in his shaking hands. Back in the car, Giovanni was quiet. Finally, that was effective. That was honest. I buckled my seatbelt. Will he call? If he's smart, yes. If he's loyal to Connor, he'll warn him we approached. Sergio pulled into traffic. Either way, we'll know within hours. We knew within minutes. Sergio's phone rang. He listened. Then, Riley just called the FBI agent. He's turning state's evidence. Wants protection for his family immediately. Giovanni's expression transformed. How fast can we extract them? Agents are en route now. They'll be in protective custody within the hour. Sergio glanced in the rearview mirror. This changes everything. With Riley's testimony and records, we don't need to wait for Marcus's story. We can move now. No. Giovanni pulled out his own phone. We let Marcus publish as planned. Maximum exposure. But we use Riley's information to coordinate federal raids on Connor's operations simultaneously. Hit him legally and publicly at the same moment. He started making calls, coordinating with contacts I didn't ask about. By the time we reached the safe house, a plan was forming. Marcus would publish in 8 days. The day before publication, federal agents would raid every O'Sullivan property Riley's records identified. Freeze accounts, seize assets, arrest key personnel. When the story broke, Connor would already be cornered. He'll retaliate before then, I said as Giovanni outlined the timeline. Once he realizes Riley's gone, he'll know something's wrong. Let him. We're ready for war now. Giovanni pulled up a tactical map on his laptop. All family assets secured, personnel in defendable positions. If Connor wants to hit us, he'll lose more than he gains. The next 3 days were tense waiting. Riley provided hundreds of pages of financial documents from a FBI safe house. Marcus coordinated with federal prosecutors to align his publication with the raids. Giovanni fortified his territory like a general preparing for siege. On day 6, Connor made his move. 3 O'Sullivan vehicles tried to ambush a Richetti supply convoy on the highway. Giovanni's men were ready. The ensuing firefight blocked traffic for 2 hours and left 4 O'Sullivan soldiers dead. No Richetti casualties. He's desperate, Giovanni said, watching news footage of police processing the scene. Throwing bodies at a problem that can't be solved with violence. Will this speed up the federal response? Already has. They're moving raids up to tomorrow. His phone buzzed. Marcus is publishing day after tomorrow instead of waiting the full 8 days. We're out of time to be cautious. I felt it then. The reality of how close we were to ending this. Tomorrow, federal agents would dismantle Connor's empire. The day after, the world would know what he'd done to Sarah and countless others. And somewhere in Chicago, Connor O'Sullivan was realizing his kingdom was crumbling. Giovanni pulled me close suddenly. After tomorrow, when the dust settles, I need to know if you can still look at me. What do you mean? I mean that by this time tomorrow, I'll have helped destroy a man, coordinated with federal agents to dismantle an organization that, while criminal, employed hundreds of people who'll now face prosecution. I'll have done it without remorse. His dark eyes searched mine. I need to know if the person I'm becoming is someone you can accept. I thought about Sarah, about Camilla in a hospital bed, about Thomas Riley's daughter who'd almost lost her father to Connor's empire of fear. You're not becoming someone new. You're becoming someone better than you were. I touched his face gently. The old Giovanni would have just killed Connor and everyone connected to him. This Giovanni found a way to get justice while protecting innocent people. That's growth, even if my methods aren't exactly legal. Even then, I kissed him, brief and gentle. Nobody's perfect, but you're trying. That counts for something. His phone rang. Sergio's name. Giovanni answered, listened, and his expression went cold. Connor just issued a direct challenge. Wants to meet tomorrow night, neutral ground, to settle this like men. He set the phone down carefully. It's a trap. Has to be. Or it's a desperate man trying to maintain some illusion of control, I said slowly. Either way, it's an opportunity. To do what? To end this face to face. Let him think he has power. Then watch federal agents arrest him in real time while we're watching. I pulled up the raid timeline. The raids start at 6 a.m. tomorrow. By 8 p.m. when Connor wants to meet, his entire operation will be in federal custody. He just won't know it yet. Giovanni stared at me. Then he started laughing, genuine and surprised. You want me to show up to his trap after his empire is already gone. Let him think he has leverage he doesn't have, and then watch his face when he realizes he's lost everything. I smiled. Call it psychological warfare. It's brilliant. It's also insane and dangerous. So is everything else we've done. I held his gaze. But this way, we get to see Connor's face when his world ends. For Sarah. For Camilla. For everyone he's hurt. Giovanni pulled me into a fierce kiss. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright. All right. We do this your way. But Natalie? Yes? If anything goes wrong tomorrow, if there's even a hint of danger, you run. Promise me. I promise. But even as I said it, I knew the truth. I was done running. Done being the person who let dangerous men dictate terms. Tomorrow, Connor O'Sullivan's reign would end, and I was going to make sure I was there to watch it fall. The federal raids began at 6:02 a.m. I watched them unfold on news feeds from the safe house, coffee growing cold in my hands. Agents in tactical gear swarming warehouses, offices, residential properties. Helicopters circling. Reporters scrambling to cover breaking news about the largest organized crime bust in Chicago history. Giovanni stood at the window, phone pressed to his ear, coordinating with contacts across the city. How many arrests so far? Pause. Good. And the accounts? Another pause. Frozen. All of them. Excellent. By noon, federal authorities had arrested 47 people connected to Connor O'Sullivan's organization, seized 12 properties, frozen assets worth an estimated $70 million. Connor himself remained at large, but his empire was burning. Marcus's story went live at 2 p.m. I read it 3 times, throat tight. He'd documented everything. Sarah's murder, the falsified police reports, the weapons trafficking, the money laundering, quotes from federal prosecutors, statements from Thomas Riley about the systematic corruption, photos of documents proving Connor's involvement, and at the center of it all, Sarah, her picture from college graduation, bright-eyed and optimistic, the story Marcus told about her courage, her integrity, her death. She would have liked this, I said quietly, seeing her name attached to something that mattered. Giovanni read over my shoulder. She got justice. That's what matters. His phone rang. He checked the screen, expression hardening. It's Connor. He answered on speaker. Connor O'Sullivan's voice came through rough and barely controlled. You destroyed everything. My businesses, my people, my legacy. You destroyed yourself. I just helped speed the process. Giovanni's voice carried no sympathy. We still meeting tonight? Or are you too busy running from federal warrants? Oh, we're meeting. 8 p.m., the old steel mill on Goose Island. You remember it, Ricchetti? Where you killed my son? Where your son tried to kill me and failed. Giovanni's jaw tightened. I'll be there. But understand this, Connor. You lost. This meeting changes nothing. We'll see about that. The line went dead. I looked at Giovanni. The steel mill is where Patrick died 6 years ago, where this all started. He set the phone down carefully. Connor wants closure on his terms. One final confrontation where he gets to play the aggrieved father. It's definitely a trap. Absolutely. Which is why I'm bringing 30 men and enough firepower to start a small war. He pulled me close. You're staying here. I know you want to see this through, but I'm coming. I cut him off firmly. Connor threatened me, vandalized my diner, killed my sister. I deserve to see this end. Natalie, you once told me I wasn't fragile. Prove you meant it. I held his gaze. I'm not asking to be in the line of fire, but I'm asking to be there. Please. He struggled with it. I saw the war in his expression between protection and respect. Finally, he nodded. You stay in the vehicle, armored, with Sergio and 2 other guards. You don't exit unless I give the all clear. Understood? Understood. We arrived at the old steel mill at 7:45 p.m. The place was a skeleton of rusted metal and broken windows, abandoned for decades. Perfect location for an ambush. Giovanni's men secured perimeter positions while Sergio parked our SUV with clear sight lines to the main entrance. Connor arrived at 8:03 p.m. Just 3 vehicles, maybe a dozen men. Significantly less force than Giovanni had brought. Either Connor was genuinely alone, or his backup was hidden extremely well. Connor himself looked like a man who'd aged 10 years in 2 days. Late 50s, gray hair unkempt, expensive suit wrinkled. He stood in the center of the mill's main floor, spotlit by the setting sun through broken skylights. Giovanni exited our vehicle. Sergio tensed but didn't stop him. I watched through bulletproof glass as Giovanni crossed the open space, stopping 20 feet from Connor. Their voices carried in the empty space, echoing off metal walls. 6 years, Connor said. 6 years I've waited for this moment. To watch your empire crumble like you made mine crumble. Your empire crumbled because you built it on violence and corruption. Mine still stands. Giovanni's posture was relaxed but ready. Whatever you're planning, it won't change what happened today. Federal agents have everything. Riley gave them everything. Riley was always weak. Just like you're weak. Connor's voice shook. You took my son from me. My only child. Do you understand what that's like? Watching your legacy die? Your son tried to murder me. I defended myself. Giovanni's voice hardened. And for 6 years, you've responded by killing innocent people, including a 24-year-old translator who just wanted to do honest work. Sarah Hayes. Connor laughed bitterly. She stuck her nose where it didn't belong, just like you, just like everyone who's ever crossed me. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I opened the vehicle door despite Sergio's protest. Sarah was my sister. My voice rang out across the empty space. Both men turned. She was brilliant and kind, and she died because of you. Connor's expression twisted. The waitress. I should have killed you when I had the chance. You should have, but you were too busy playing games. I walked forward slowly, aware of Giovanni's tension but unable to stop. You wanted revenge so badly that you destroyed yourself getting it. Now you have nothing. No organization, no money, no future except prison. I have this. Connor pulled a gun from his jacket. Everything happened in seconds. Giovanni moved toward me. Connor's arm came up, and I saw it. The red laser dot on Connor's chest from somewhere in the rafters. A sniper Giovanni had positioned hours ago. But the shot didn't come from the rafters. It came from behind Connor. One of his own men, weapon raised, fired twice. Connor jerked, stumbled. The gun fell from his hands. Federal agent, the man announced, pulling credentials. Connor O'Sullivan, you're under arrest for murder, racketeering, weapons trafficking. More agents emerged from positions I hadn't noticed. They'd been here all along, waiting. Connor collapsed to his knees, blood spreading across his shirt from what looked like shoulder wounds. Non-lethal. Deliberately placed. Giovanni reached me, pulled me behind him protectively. But the danger had passed. Agents swarmed Connor, weapons trained, reading him his rights as he bled and swore. "You set this up," I said quietly to Giovanni. "You knew the feds would be here. I suggested it might be a good place to arrest him safely, away from civilians." Giovanni kept his eyes on Connor. "I wanted you to see him caught, but I also wanted to make sure nobody else died tonight. This way, everyone goes home." Connor was screaming now, about lawyers and rights and corruption. The agents hauled him to his feet, wounds already bandaged by a tactical medic. As they dragged him past us toward waiting vehicles, his eyes locked on Giovanni. "This isn't over. I'll find a way. It's over." Giovanni's voice was final. "You lost. Your organization is dismantled. Your assets are seized. Your people turned on you to save themselves. You'll spend the rest of your life in a federal prison wondering where it all went wrong." He paused. "The answer, by the way, is that night 6 years ago when you raised your son to think violence solved problems. He learned from the best, and it got him killed. That's on you, Connor. Not me." Connor tried to lunge forward. The agents restrained him easily, dragging him away, still screaming threats. We watched until the vehicles disappeared, leaving only the shell of the old steel mill and the setting sun. "It's done," Giovanni said quietly. "Really done. Yes." I leaned against him, exhausted. "What happens now?" "Now the legal system handles Connor. He'll face trial, probably get life imprisonment given everything Riley and others are testifying to." Giovanni turned to face me. "And we figure out what life looks like without a war hanging over us." 3 months passed before life resembled anything close to normal. The federal trials dominated news cycles. Connor was convicted on 17 counts and sentenced to life without parole. His remaining organization fractured completely, absorbed by other families or dismantled by authorities. Giovanni kept his word about restructuring. He promoted new leadership for the family's remaining questionable operations, while investing heavily in legitimate businesses. Still a Ricchetti, still powerful, but less exposed, more strategic. I reopened Hayes' Diner with insurance money and a generous loan from Giovanni that I insisted on repaying with interest. He'd offered to just buy the building and gift it to me. I'd threatened to break up with him if he tried. "We're dating now," he'd asked, amused. "If you're going to be in my life, we're doing it properly, which means I keep my independence and you respect it." He'd agreed. Had been agreeing to everything I asked for 3 months. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like building something real. Anna returned to work once the danger passed, though she kept a baseball bat behind the counter now. "Just in case," she'd said with a wink. Camilla recovered fully and went back to school. She visited the diner occasionally, always ordering pie and telling embarrassing stories about Giovanni's childhood. I liked her immensely. On a Tuesday afternoon in early spring, I locked the diner door after lunch rush to find a small box on the counter. Inside, Giovanni's family ring, the one that started everything. A note accompanied it. "This belongs with Sarah now. Will you come with me to finally let it go?" I called him. "Where are you?" "Downstairs, if you're willing." He was leaning against his car, hands in pockets, looking uncertain in a way I'd never seen him. I held up the box. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. Sarah earned it. And maybe if we leave it with her, we can both move forward." We drove to the cemetery where Sarah was buried. I'd paid for a better headstone with my share of reward money from the federal case. Sarah Elizabeth Hayes, beloved sister. She stood for truth. Giovanni knelt, placed the ring on the grave. "I'm sorry we never met properly. Sorry my world touched yours and destroyed it. But your sister made me want to be better. Thank you for that." I added flowers I'd brought, wild roses, Sarah's favorite. "You'd like him, I think. Eventually, after you finished yelling at him for getting you killed." Giovanni smiled slightly. Would she have yelled? Absolutely. Sarah never met an authority figure she didn't question. I touched the headstone gently. But she also believed in second chances, in people changing. You would have annoyed each other and then become friends. We stood in silence for a while. Finally, Giovanni took my hand. "I need to ask you something. Okay? Move in with me." Not the safe house. My actual home. The one I haven't shown you yet because I was terrified you'd hate it and hate me by extension. The words came quickly, nervous. I know it's fast. I know we agreed to take things slow. But I wake up every morning wanting to see you and go to sleep every night wishing you were there. I'm tired of slow. I want to build a life with you. My heart hammered. What kind of life? Whatever kind you want. I'll commute to the diner every morning for coffee if that's what it takes. I'll learn to make small talk with truckers. I'll become the most boring, legitimate businessman Chicago's ever seen. He squeezed my hand. I just want to do it with you. I thought about Sarah. About the life she'd wanted. Full of adventure and purpose and love. About how she'd died pursuing truth and justice. About how she'd want me to be happy. Show me this house first, I said. And we negotiate terms. I'm not giving up my independence or the diner. Wouldn't dream of asking you to. And you keep transforming those questionable operations into legitimate ones. Already in progress. And you introduce me to your entire family as your girlfriend. Not just some woman you're protecting. He pulled me close, eyes bright. I'll take out a billboard if you want. Giovanni Ricchetti is hopelessly in love with Natalie Hayes and she tolerates him for reasons he doesn't understand. I don't tolerate you. I paused, took a breath. I love you. Even though you're complicated and dangerous and you paid $200 for coffee you didn't drink. I love you too. Even though you're stubborn and reckless and you threatened to break up with me over a business loan. We kissed there in the cemetery. Spring sun warming the air. Sarah's grave between us. When we pulled apart, I could have sworn I felt her approval. Sarah had always wanted me to take risks, to live fully, to love fearlessly. I was finally doing all three. Giovanni's house turned out to be a converted brownstone in Lincoln Park. Historic, beautiful, and surprisingly cozy, despite the security system that could probably withstand a military assault. I moved in 2 weeks later with Anna's blessing and Camilla's enthusiastic help. The diner thrived. Giovanni showed up most mornings for coffee, charming the regulars and occasionally washing dishes when we were short-staffed. It was domestic and strange and perfect. 3 months after moving in, I found a positive pregnancy test in my bathroom. Giovanni found me sitting on the bedroom floor, test in hand, tears streaming down my face. Natalie, what's wrong? He crouched beside me, saw the test, and went completely still. I'm pregnant. The words felt surreal. I'm pregnant, and I don't know if I'm terrified or excited or both. He pulled me into his arms and I realized he was shaking. I'm definitely both. Maybe more terrified than excited. Possibly panicking. He pulled back to look at me. Are you okay? Do you want this? I think so. I mean, yes. But Giovanni, we're bringing a child into your world. The world where people get shot and organizations war with each other. How do we make it safe? Safer than it was. His hands cupped my face gently. I've spent 3 months restructuring everything to minimize risk. We'll do more. Whatever it takes to give this child a life where danger isn't normal. You promise? I promise. On Sarah's memory. On everything I am. He kissed my forehead. We'll figure it out together. And somehow I believed him. Not because the world was safe, or because danger had disappeared, but because Giovanni was trying. Because we were building something better than what came before. Sarah would have approved of that too. Giovanni's reaction to the pregnancy evolved through distinct stages. First came the terror. He'd wake at 3 a.m. reading parenting books, making lists of potential threats, researching the safest neighborhoods in Chicago. I'd find him calculating blast radiuses from the brownstone to various potential targets. You're spiraling, I told him at 4 a.m. one night, taking the notebook full of security protocols from his hands. Our daughter doesn't need a fortress. She needs a father who sleeps occasionally. Daughter? His voice cracked slightly. You think it's a girl? I know it's a girl. Mother's intuition. I pressed his hand to my barely there bump. And she needs you functional, not paranoid. The terror gradually transformed into something softer. He started attending every prenatal appointment, asking questions that made the obstetrician smile. He painted the nursery himself, refusing to let workers he didn't personally vet into our home. He talked to my stomach when he thought I was asleep. making promises about the life he'd give her. But the biggest change came 4 months into the pregnancy when I delivered my ultimatum. We were having dinner at the Brownstone, Sergio and Camilla joining us for pasta night that had become weekly tradition. Giovanni was explaining a new business venture, something about shipping logistics, when I set down my fork. I need you to step back from operations. Completely. The table went silent. Giovanni stared at me. What? The questionable parts of your business. The things that happen in shadows. I need you out of them before this baby is born. I kept my voice steady. I can't raise a child wondering if her father is going to come home. If federal agents will show up at her school because someone decided to flip on you. If rivals will target her to get to you. Natalie. I've already restructured. It's not enough. You're still connected. Still making decisions that could backfire. I met his eyes. I'm not asking you to walk away from being a Richetti. I'm asking you to transition fully into legitimate business and let someone else handle what's left of the illegal operations. Camilla spoke up quietly. She's right, Gio. You've been talking about getting out for years. You just needed a reason. My reason is sitting across from me carrying my child. Giovanni's jaw worked. But if I step back completely, I leave a power vacuum. Someone has to lead the family. Promote someone you trust. Someone younger who's not trying to build a different life. I reached across the table for his hand. Antonio would want this for you. He'd want you to have the choice he never got. Giovanni was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. I'll need 6 months to transition. Find the right person. Ensure loyalty. Make sure the change doesn't cause instability. You have 4. She's due in 5. You're negotiating using our unborn daughter as leverage. I'm negotiating because I love you and I want decades with you, not years cut short by violence. I squeezed his hand. Choose us. Please. He chose us. The next 4 months were chaos. Giovanni identified his successor, a sharp 32-year-old named Luca, who'd been running their Boston operations with brutal efficiency and surprising diplomacy. The transition was announced to family leadership at a meeting I didn't attend, but heard about later. Some resistance, some relief. Universal respect for Giovanni's decision. They think you're going soft, Camilla told me over coffee at the diner. I told them you're actually the scariest person any of us know because you made Giovanni Richetti choose family over power. I didn't make him do anything. I just gave him permission to want something different. That's what makes it scary. She grinned. Also, I'm absolutely going to spoil this baby outrageously. Fair warning. By month 7, Giovanni's involvement in anything questionable had reduced to occasional advisory calls with Luca. He threw himself into legitimate ventures instead, expanding the family's import business, investing in real estate, even exploring tech startups. It was strange watching him transform into someone who attended city council meetings and charity galas. You look good in a tuxedo, I told him at a fundraiser for the children's hospital. Very respectable mob boss turned philanthropist. Former mob boss. Present tense philanthropist who's completely out of his depth at these events. He tugged at his bow tie. How do you talk to these people? They're terrifying. They're rich donors. You've negotiated with actual criminals. Criminals are more straightforward. They tell you what they want. These people talk in circles about quarterly projections and impact metrics. He spotted Camilla across the room, waved. Your sister is better at this than I am. Camilla's better at everything social. That's why she'll be an excellent doctor. I rubbed my very pregnant belly. Are you ready for this? Really ready? For fatherhood? No, absolutely not. I'm terrified I'll break her or raise her wrong or fail to protect her from everything. He placed his hand over mine on my stomach. But I'm trying to be ready. That has to count for something. It counted for everything. Our daughter arrived on a Tuesday in October, 3 weeks early, and with enough drama to announce her Richetti heritage. 20 hours of labor. Giovanni nearly passing out twice. Camilla in scrubs because she'd convinced the hospital to let her observe as part of her medical training. Anna waiting in the lobby with half the diner's regular customers who'd somehow heard the news. When the nurse finally placed a screaming, red-faced baby in my arms, I understood immediately why people did irrational things for their children, why Giovanni had walked away from power, why Sarah had tried to fight corruption despite the danger. She's perfect, Giovanni whispered, fingers gentle on her tiny hand. What do we name her? We'd discussed this for months without reaching consensus. But looking at her now, the answer was obvious. Sophia, after your mother. I touched her dark hair, already thick, and Sarah as a middle name. Sophia Sarah Ricchetti. Giovanni's eyes went bright. You're sure? I'm sure. Your mother deserves to be remembered. And Sarah, my throat tightened. Sarah deserves to be part of the good that came from all of this. He kissed my forehead, then Sophia's. Thank you. For her. For everything. The first month of parenthood was chaos. Sophia had her father's intensity and my stubborn refusal to sleep on any predictable schedule. Giovanni approached fatherhood like a military operation. Spreadsheets tracking feeding times and diaper changes. Research about developmental milestones. Baby-proofing that would have impressed security consultants. You can't bubble wrap the entire house, I told him at 2 a.m. while nursing Sophia. She needs to be able to live. She can live in a safe environment. There's a difference. But he was smiling when he said it, exhaustion and joy mixing in equal measure. By month 3, we'd found a rhythm. Giovanni handled morning duties so I could sleep after overnight feedings. I took afternoons while he worked on legitimate business from a home office. Camilla visited twice a week, teaching us things from her medical training. Anna insisted on babysitting every Sunday so we could have date nights. You two need adult time, Anna declared, already cooing at Sophia. Go, eat food that requires utensils. Have conversations about something other than diapers. Those date nights became sacred. Sometimes we went somewhere fancy, remembering who we'd been before parenthood consumed us. More often, we just walked along the lakefront, talking about everything and nothing. About Sarah and how she'd have loved being an aunt. About Giovanni's brother Antonio, and the nephew he'd never get to meet. About building lives that honored the people we'd lost. Do you miss it? I asked one evening as we watched sunset over Lake Michigan. The power, the respect that came from fear, all of it? Giovanni considered carefully. Sometimes. Usually when Sophia cries for 2 hours straight and I can't fix it. Then I think about how being a mob boss didn't prepare me for fatherhood at all. He pulled me closer. But then she smiles at me or falls asleep on my chest, and I realize this is better. Harder, but better. No regrets? Only that I didn't find you sooner. That Sarah had to die for us to meet. His voice went quiet. I'd change that if I could. Take a different path that didn't cost her life. I know. But we can't change the past. We can only honor it. I leaned against him. Sarah would like knowing her death meant something. That Connor's in prison. That you chose a different life. She'd probably also yell at me for getting you involved in my world at all. Definitely. Then she'd demand to babysit Sophia every weekend. I smiled through sudden tears. I miss her. Every day. I know. He held me while I cried. Something I'd done periodically since Sophia's birth. Grief mixed with joy. Loss mixed with love. The complicated reality of building happiness from tragedy. 6 months after Sophia's birth, I returned to the diner part-time. Giovanni had offered to hire full-time staff, so I wouldn't have to work, but I'd refused. The diner was mine. My connection to my parents, to Sarah, to the life I'd built before everything changed. I wasn't giving it up. So Giovanni learned to operate the espresso machine. Camilla covered occasional shifts. Anna remained the backbone of the operation. And I brought Sophia with me sometimes, letting her sleep in a bassinet behind the counter while I poured coffee for truckers and regulars who'd known my family for decades. She's going to grow up smelling like coffee and hearing stories about the weird 3 a.m. crowd, I told Anna one afternoon while Sophia napped. Sounds like a good childhood to me. Anna adjusted Sophia's blanket gently. Your parents would be proud, honey. Of this place, of how you survived everything, of that beautiful baby. And Sarah? Sarah would be beside herself with joy. Probably spoiling Sophia rotten and teaching her Italian curse words to horrify Giovanni. Anna smiled. But mostly she'd be proud you found love in spite of everything. That you chose to be happy. On a random Thursday when Sophia was 8 months old, Giovanni showed up at the diner during lunch rush with flowers and a nervous expression. "We need to talk," he said. My stomach dropped. "That's never a good opening." "It's good, I promise. Can you take a break?" We sat in our usual booth while Anna watched Sophia in the counter. Giovanni pulled out a small box, set it on the table between us. "I know we've been doing this backwards. Living together, having a baby, building a life without doing the traditional steps." He opened the box. Inside, a simple diamond ring, elegant and understated. "But I want to do this part right. Natalie Hayes, will you marry me?" I stared at the ring. At Giovanni, this complicated man who'd walked into my diner 10 months ago and changed everything. Who'd helped me find justice for Sarah. Who'd transformed his entire life because I'd asked him to. Who woke up at 3 a.m. to soothe our daughter and made terrible dad jokes and loved me with an intensity that still took my breath away. "Yes," I said. "Obviously yes." He slipped the ring on my finger, and the diner burst into applause. I turned to find Anna crying, several regulars grinning, and Sergio, who I hadn't noticed, enter, looking suspiciously emotional. "You planned this," I accused Giovanni. "I wanted witnesses, people who'd hold us to it." He kissed me gently. Also, Anna threatened to ban me from the diner if I didn't propose properly with flowers and everything. "I absolutely did," Anna called from behind the counter. We married 2 months later in a small ceremony at the same cemetery where Sarah was buried. Camilla stood as my maid of honor. Sergio was Giovanni's best man. Sophia wore a tiny dress and slept through the entire thing. We kept it intimate, just family and close friends, exchanging vows with Sarah's headstone in view. "I take thee, Giovanni Ricchetti, former criminal mastermind, current legitimate businessman, forever Sophia's terrified but devoted father," I said when it was my turn. Laughter rippled through our small gathering. "To have and to hold, even when you're ridiculous about baby-proofing. To love and to cherish, because you chose to be better, for as long as we both shall live." Giovanni's voice was rough when he spoke. "I take thee, Natalie Hayes, waitress extraordinaire, fierce advocate for justice, the scariest person I've ever met in the best way. To have and to hold, especially during 3 a.m. feedings. To love and to cherish, because you make me want to deserve you. For as long as we both shall live." We sealed it with a kiss, while Sophia woke up and immediately demanded attention. Perfect chaos. Perfect love. After the ceremony, I laid my bouquet on Sarah's grave. "You'd have liked him eventually," I told her silently. "Once you finished being furious. He makes me happy. I hope wherever you are, you're happy too. And thank you for the ring, for starting all of this." That evening, the diner hosted our reception. Anna had closed early and decorated with fairy lights and flowers. We danced between the tables. Sophia passed between aunts and uncles, regulars crashing the party with good wishes and terrible karaoke. Giovanni pulled me close during a slow song, Sophia asleep against his shoulder. This is not what I imagined my life looking like. Better or worse? Better. So much better it terrifies me. He kissed my forehead. "Thank you for taking a chance on a complicated man with a questionable past. Thank you for becoming someone worth taking a chance on." 6 months later, I found Giovanni at the diner on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. He sat in the booth where we'd first talked about the ring, Sophia in his lap, showing her pictures on his phone. "What are you two doing?" I asked, sliding in across from them. "Showing our daughter her Aunt Sarah, telling her the story about how her parents met because of a ring and justice and a very brave woman who tried to do the right thing." He looked up at me, eyes soft. "She should know where she comes from. All of it." Sophia grabbed for the phone, babbling in her own language. Giovanni let her, patient and gentle. This man who'd ordered violence without flinching now spent his afternoons teaching our daughter about family and heritage, and choosing to be better. "I love you," I said suddenly. "Have I mentioned that recently?" "Not in the last hour." I was starting to worry. He grinned. "I love you too, even though you make me work double shifts at the diner when we're short-staffed. Builds character. I have plenty of character. I'm a reformed mob boss turned respectable businessman and doting father. Keep telling yourself that. Former Don Ricchetti." He laughed. the sound rich and free. Sophia laughed too, not understanding the joke but happy to participate. And I realized this was everything Sarah would have wanted for me. Love, laughter, safety, purpose, a life built from tragedy, but defined by hope. The diner bell chimed, new customers entering. Time to get back to work, to the life I'd built serving coffee and raising a daughter, and loving a complicated man who'd chosen change. But first, I leaned across the table and kissed my husband. Then I kissed our daughter's forehead. Family. Hard-won and precious and worth every struggle to get here. Sarah's ring remained in the family vault, a reminder of where we'd started. But this, Sophia's laughter, Giovanni's peace, our quiet life, was the legacy that mattered. The proof that sometimes justice looks like vengeance, sometimes like trials, but most often like choosing to build something good from the rubble of what was lost. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.